Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something. When a man ain't over his ex, baby, you gonna feel it. You ain't gotta be a relationship expert. You just gotta pay attention. Now, I know some of y'all sitting here looking cute, sipping wine, thinking, but he said he's done with her. Uh-huh. And I said I was done with chocolate cake too, but catch me in the kitchen at midnight. When a man isn't over his ex, one of the biggest giveaways is how much he talks about her. And I don't mean just once in a casual story or when it's relevant. I'm talking about a man who brings her up way too often. Every conversation somehow circles back to her. You could be talking about your favorite movie and suddenly he says, yeah, she loved that one too. You could be telling him a story about your day and he'll follow it with, that reminds me of the time me and my ex. Now, let me tell you something. That's not coincidence. That's emotional attachment still lurking in the background. See, when a man has truly moved on, his focus is forward, not backward. He's interested in learning about you and building something with you. But when his ex is still occupying real estate in his mind, she becomes the lens through which he sees everything. He compares, he reminisces, he replays. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's loud, but either way you feel it. And let's be honest, no woman wants to be in a conversation where she feels like the ghost of another woman is sitting right there at the table with her. And it's not just about how often he talks about her, it's how he talks about her. If he's praising her, talking about how amazing she was, how well they got along, how hard the breakup was, that's a big red flag. Because he's not just talking to you, he's talking to himself, trying to hold on to something that's already gone. And if he's bashing her, calling her name, saying she ruined his life, that's not closure either. That's unresolved emotion. That's bitterness dressed up as strength. And trust me, that kind of energy doesn't disappear overnight. It lingers and it affects how he treats you too. Sometimes he might not even realize he's doing it. He might think he's just being honest, sharing his past, trying to connect. But if his version of bonding means taking you on a guided tour of his heartbreak, baby, that man's still standing at the ruins, hoping something will rise again. And the worst part, when you call it out, he'll say, I'm over her. I just have a lot of stories. No, sir. You don't just have stories. You have an emotional library you keep checking out every weekend. And every time he opens that book, it keeps the wound fresh. Women can feel this. You feel it in your gut. You feel it when he lights up a little too much talking about her daughter. You feel it when he casually mentions she used to cook that same meal you just made. You feel it when you're trying to enjoy your time together, but his past keeps showing up like an uninvited guest. You can't build a future with someone who's still living in the past. That's like trying to start a new chapter in a book he refuses to stop rereading. So what does it really mean when he keeps bringing her up? It means part of him is still stuck in the what ifs, the should haves, the memories, and you, my dear, deserve more than that. You deserve to be seen for who you are, not filtered through the lens of someone who came before you. When a man is truly present, truly available, he's not dragging the past behind him like luggage. He's walking into the future, free hands, open heart. But if he's still talking about his ex every chance he gets, then no matter what he says, he's not ready. Not for you, not for love. Not yet. Another strong sign that a man isn't over his ex is how emotionally reactive he gets when she's mentioned or when something reminds him of her. Now, this one right here is tricky because it's not always about what he says, it's about how he reacts. You bring her name up casually, maybe during a conversation about exes, or just asking something harmless like, are you guys still in touch? And suddenly his whole vibe shifts, his mood changes, his body language tightens up, and you can see something flicker in his eyes, anger, sadness, discomfort, maybe even regret. That reaction, that's emotional residue, and it's telling you more than words ever could. See, when a man has healed and truly moved on, he can speak about his past calmly with maturity and without emotional spikes. He might acknowledge that it was a hard breakup or that he learned from it, but he won't get all worked up. But if he gets defensive, bitter, or starts ranting about how she did him wrong, that's not closure. That's still pain talking. You don't get that emotional unless there's still something burning inside. And whether that fire is anger or heartbreak, it's still there smoldering under the surface, and it hasn't been dealt with. You might notice it in other ways too. Maybe a certain song comes on and suddenly he zones out, goes quiet, or even skips it. Maybe you suggest doing something new together, going to a certain restaurant, visiting a city, and he shuts it down immediately because it's a place they used to go. That kind of emotional sensitivity, that's not nostalgia. That's a wound. A healed man doesn't flinch at memories. He might remember them, but they don't control him. But a man who's still hurting, he'll avoid or react to anything that even grazes those past feelings. Sometimes he'll even mask it by pretending not to care at all. He'll say things like, "She means nothing to me," or "I don't even think about her anymore." But you can hear that tightness in his voice, like he's trying to convince himself more than he's trying to convince you. Or he gets irritated that you even brought her up. That irritation, that's not indifference. That's emotional tension. A man at peace with his past doesn't need to over-explain or get annoyed when it's mentioned. He's calm because there's nothing left there to stir up. And don't forget the other side of this. He might still get sad when he talks about her. His tone softens, his eyes look away, he pauses, like he's trying not to feel something. That sadness is telling you that part of him is still emotionally connected. You're not just listening to his words, you're reading the spaces between them. You're watching how his face changes, how his energy shifts. And if you're paying attention, you'll know exactly where he stands emotionally. All of this shows up in how he talks to you, how he treats you, and how he responds when the past creeps in. If he's still emotionally tangled in what used to be, it'll bleed into what you're trying to build. You might find yourself feeling compared, dismissed, or even responsible for his emotional ups and downs, and that's not fair to you. You're not his therapist, and you're not his emotional rebound. You're not here to fix what she broke or prove that you're better. You're here for something real, something present, something whole. Emotional reactivity is a sign of unresolved emotion, and unresolved emotion has a way of creeping into everything. Arguments, intimacy, even silence. When you feel like you're walking on eggshells because you don't know how he's going to react when the topic of his ex comes up, that's not peace, that's tension. That's a man still dealing with emotional weight he hasn't let go of yet. When a man isn't over his ex, one of the most obvious and often overlooked signs is that he still has her pictures, her gifts, or even her belongings around. Now, let me tell you, this right here is a strong signal. Some people will try to pass it off as sentimental value. Others will say they just forgot to throw it away. But the truth is, when a man is truly ready to move on, he doesn't hold on to physical reminders of his past. These items, whether they're tucked away in a drawer or sitting out in plain sight, are not just objects. They're symbols of emotional attachment. They are the pieces of a memory he's not ready to let go of. You walk into his room and there's a framed picture on the shelf. Maybe it's not even front and center. Maybe it's tucked behind something else, but it's there. Or maybe he still has a hoodie she gave him, a bracelet she bought, a card with handwriting that he swears means nothing. But it does mean something, otherwise he wouldn't be holding on to it. People don't keep things that don't serve a purpose. These items are like emotional bookmarks, holding a place in his mind for something that once was and maybe still is. They're little echoes of a relationship that hasn't been fully closed. And it's not just about what's lying around, it's about what he refuses to get rid of. You could be cleaning up, organizing, maybe even helping him move, and you'll find something of hers. You ask, "Hey, do you want me to toss this?" And suddenly he gets weird. He hesitates, looks at it a little too long, or gives a vague answer like, just leave it there for now. That hesitation is not about the object. It's about what it represents. If a man is emotionally done, he's not protecting souvenirs. He's not keeping old birthday cards or movie ticket stubs like they're sacred. He's clearing space, not just in his home, but in his heart. Sometimes it's her stuff that's still in his life. Maybe it's a few things she left behind, a book, a necklace, a box of old letters, and instead of returning it, he's just holding on to it. That doesn't mean he's planning to give it back. Sometimes he just doesn't want to let go. And that's the part you have to pay attention to, because those items are energy. They carry memories, feelings, moments, and when they're still present, they keep him emotionally tied to someone who's not supposed to be in the picture anymore. Even worse, there are times when he shows these things to you. Maybe he thinks it's harmless. Maybe he's trying to be transparent, but showing you an old picture of them, telling you stories about how she gave him that necklace, or saying, I still have this because she used to wear it all the time, is not just casual conversation. That's him still emotionally living in that space, and it puts you in a strange position because now you're sitting in a relationship where you're physically there, but emotionally you're sharing space with a memory. And then there's social media. Maybe he's not displaying her pictures in the house, but his digital world still holds on to her. Old photos on Instagram, couple pictures on Facebook, tagged memories that he hasn't removed. That's not being lazy, that's holding on. That's not cleaning out the emotional closet. And if he hasn't done that, it tells you everything you need to know. He's still looking back, still remembering, still cherishing what once was instead of building what could be. Because when a man is ready for what's next, he doesn't need constant reminders of what came before. He lets go, he clears space, and he makes room for something new to grow. When a man is not over his ex, one of the ways it shows up loud and clear is when he starts comparing you to her, either openly or subtly. Now, this one might not always hit you in the face right away. It might creep in slow. You're out to dinner, enjoying the moment, and he casually drops a line like, wow, you ordered the same drink she used to. At first, you might brush it off. You might even laugh. But the more you pay attention, the more you start to notice a pattern. He's not just noticing you, he's measuring you against someone else. And that someone else is no longer in the picture, but somehow she's still setting the standard. This kind of comparison can be sneaky. Sometimes it's in the tone. Sometimes it's in the little looks. He might say, you're way more laid back than she was. Or she used to get mad when I did that, but you don't. Now listen, on the surface, that might sound like a compliment, but underneath, it's a sign that his mind is still in that past relationship. He's still processing what happened, still sorting through what he liked or didn't like about her, and now he's using you as the emotional litmus test. That's not love. That's a man still stuck in the reflection of a relationship that ended, trying to figure out if you're going to play out the same or if you're the upgrade he thinks he needs. It doesn't always sound negative either. Sometimes he talks about how great she was. He might say she was super organized, or that she cooked amazing meals, or that she was always supportive. And you start to wonder, if she was so amazing, why isn't he still with her? Why does she come up in these glowing, detailed stories? That's not him being sentimental. That's him holding on to a highlight reel that keeps playing in his head. And whether he realizes it or not, he's making you feel like you're auditioning for a role someone else already played. Other times, the comparison isn't even verbal. It's in how he reacts to things. You do something different. Maybe you express an opinion. Maybe you handle a situation with him. And he pauses, almost surprised. You see it in his face. He's thinking, she didn't do it like that. That pause, that subtle reaction, it's not just about the moment. He's not fully experiencing you in real time. He's layering the past on top of the present. And whether you're aware of it or not, you're being put up against someone who's no longer there. And the deeper issue with all of this, It creates an emotional competition you never signed up for. You start feeling like you have to prove yourself, like you have to outshine a ghost. You might even find yourself doing things just to avoid hearing another story that starts with, "she used to." It can eat away at your confidence, your comfort, your sense of security in the relationship. Because when you're constantly being compared, even if he doesn't mean it in a hurtful way, it makes you feel like you're not enough just as you are. It makes you feel like you're being viewed through a filter that's tinted with memory, regret, and unresolved emotion. And maybe worst of all, he might not even know he's doing it. He might think he's just sharing, being honest, making conversation. But the truth is, if he was truly done with the past, he wouldn't need to measure you against it. He'd see you for you without needing to mention how you line up with someone who no longer belongs in his present. Because when a man is ready for something new, he's not comparing, he's appreciating. He's not reminiscing, he's investing. And if the past is still the reference point, then the present hasn't been given a real chance. One of the clearest signs that a man isn't over his ex is when he continues to keep tabs on her or stays in contact with her. Now look, sometimes people remain civil with their exes, especially if they share kids or mutual friends or had a long history. But there's a difference between occasional, necessary contact and intentional emotional involvement. When a man is really done with a relationship, he doesn't need to keep looking back. He doesn't need to watch her stories, check her posts, or find out who she's dating now. But when he's not over her, the curiosity is constant and the digital connection stays alive. You notice it in small ways at first. He mentions her name out of the blue. He knows what city she just moved to, what job she just landed, or that she posted some new guy on her story. You ask yourself, how does he even know that? He'll brush it off, say, "Oh, I just happened to see it," or "it popped up on my feed." But nobody's just accidentally that informed. You don't keep tabs on someone unless there's still a part of you that wants to be connected. And even if he's not speaking to her directly, if he's checking her page, reading her captions, keeping an eye on her updates, he's emotionally tuned in. He might not call it stalking, but if he's spending time and energy looking at her life unfold, it's because he hasn't emotionally detached. Then there are the men who still talk to their ex regularly. Maybe he tells you, "We're just friends," or "We've known each other too long to cut each other off completely." But if you're in a new relationship and he's still texting his ex good morning, sending her memes, or calling to check in, something's off. Friendship is one thing, but when there's frequent contact, emotional conversations, or lingering familiarity, it's not just a friendship. It's a bond that hasn't been fully broken. And if you bring it up and he gets defensive, says things like, "You're being insecure," or "It's not a big deal," what he's really saying is that he's not ready to close that door yet. Sometimes it's not even about emotional conversations. It could be something as simple as him watching her every Instagram story, liking her posts, or still having her number saved under a little nickname. Maybe he hasn't blocked her, unfollowed her, or even removed old DMs. These are small choices, but they say a lot. A man who's ready to move forward doesn't keep a digital trail of his past love. He's not lingering in her comment section or scrolling through her feed late at night. He's not revisiting her pictures or rereading old messages. That behavior isn't casual, it's emotional behavior. It's a man still orbiting a relationship that should have been released. You might also notice that he knows more than he should. He tells you her new boyfriend's name. He knows when she's traveling. He knows she just got a promotion. If she's not telling him directly, then he's getting that information some other way, through mutuals, through snooping, through silent observation. Either way, he's choosing to stay connected. And when a man is still emotionally invested in the day-to-day details of his ex's life, there's no way he's fully present with you. His attention is divided. His heart hasn't landed. Even if he claims it's harmless, even if he says he's just being nice, you have to ask yourself, why is the past still part of his present? Why does he need to keep those lines open? When someone is genuinely over a relationship, they don't feel the need to keep peeking back. They don't hold on to just-in-case connections. They move forward without needing the comfort or curiosity of the past. Because keeping tabs, whether it's online, through mutual friends, or directly, is never just about being friendly. It's about holding on to something that still means something. Another powerful sign that a man is not over his ex is when he avoids emotional intimacy or holds back from fully connecting with you. Now, at first, you might not notice this right away. He might be fun, charming, engaging. He might take you out, keep the conversations flowing, share laughs, and even open up just enough to make you feel like you're building something real. But as time passes, you start to feel a distance. A wall that you can't quite name, but you can definitely feel. It shows up when you try to get deeper, when you talk about your feelings, when you ask questions that require more than surface-level answers. He becomes vague, distant, or simply redirects the conversation. This emotional hesitation is not always about you. In fact, most of the time, it has nothing to do with who you are. It has everything to do with what he hasn't healed from. When a man is still emotionally tied to a past relationship, he's afraid to fully invest in a new one. He might not even realize he's doing it, but his heart is guarded. He's hesitant to be vulnerable, to say how he truly feels, or to make future plans. You'll hear things like, "Let's just see where this goes," or "I'm not ready to label anything yet." And that's not because you're moving too fast. It's because he's still emotionally stuck in what came before you. You'll notice that when things start to feel real, when the relationship moves from the excitement stage to the meaningful stage, he pulls back. Maybe he stops texting as much. Maybe he doesn't open up the way he used to. Maybe he creates emotional distance through distractions, being too busy, hanging out with friends more, diving into work. These aren't coincidences. They're coping mechanisms. He's keeping himself from getting too close because deep down he knows he hasn't made peace with his past. He's afraid of repeating the same pain, or worse, he's still secretly hoping his ex will come back. And sometimes he might be fully aware of what he's doing, but he doesn't want to admit it, not to you, not to himself. So instead, he stays in this limbo where he enjoys your company but avoids commitment. He enjoys the comfort but avoids responsibility. He gives you just enough to keep you there, but never enough to make you feel truly secure. That right there is emotional unavailability wrapped in the illusion of potential. It keeps you hoping, waiting, wondering. But a man who's ready doesn't keep you guessing. He meets you where you are and moves with clarity. Then there's the emotional comparison trap. You might find that he doesn't react to your emotions the way a present partner should. When you express your needs or share something vulnerable, he might dismiss it or seem emotionally numb. Why? Because a part of him is still emotionally worn out from the last relationship. He's still carrying the emotional fatigue, the unresolved baggage, and it's weighing him down. It keeps him from being fully engaged in the now. So even though he's physically with you, his heart is still in recovery mode, still bruised by memories he hasn't processed, still guarded against something new that might hurt again. Emotional intimacy requires presence. It requires trust. It requires healing. And a man who hasn't healed can't offer that, not fully, not consistently. He can give you moments, but not momentum. He can give you attention, but not true affection. And in a relationship, that becomes a heavy imbalance. You start feeling like you're doing the emotional heavy lifting, like you're loving for two, and eventually that takes a toll. Because no matter how strong you are, love only works when it's shared, when it's mutual, when it's whole. The truth is, when a man is still emotionally tied to his ex, he may not even realize how much it's affecting his present. But you'll feel it in his hesitation, in his silence, in the way he holds back right when it matters most. And while you can have patience, while you can give grace, you also deserve clarity. You deserve someone who shows up fully, not halfway. Someone who's done healing, done comparing, done holding back. Because real love can't grow in the shadows of what used to be. It needs space, light, and a heart that's truly ready to receive it.